Good morning. Here we are. How's everybody doing? Who have we got on? Oh, we've got 6 people watching. That's got to be good. So, good morning, Kevin. Good morning to me. Good morning, Graham. Stellian, hello. Gotta get my lights organised. It's a bit dark in here, isn't it? Just reach. Alright, let's see if that switches on. Yeah, there we go. We're up and running. Morning, Scott. Thought I was looking a little dark. It's a lot better now. It's one of the things I really don't like that irritates me is when you get a lead under your chair, under the wheels. Right, anybody else here? I have got some smart bulbs, but just not all of them are smart. So, what I have is the blue light. Yeah, it's just like, yeah. So, yeah, I've got the red lights, apart from the one I just switched on. They're all like hue, and the blue one's hue as well. Which is super handy because I can blend the colours so it looks right. Hi, Zed. Yeah, annoying wires tangled under the wheels. Right, coffee. So today, actually, I'll just get my notes, right? 1 second. So fear. Fear. That's what we're going to talk about today. So remember what I call conditions of success. We have, so we've talked about focus, we've talked about habits, we've talked about environment and decisions, and now we're going to talk about fear. Going to try to downsize my studio. Got to get rid of my Mesa cab and head and all sorts of other stuff. Sounds a sensible thing to do, Kevin. I too have things that I need to get rid of, you know, and it's funny because maybe that, you know, when we don't get rid of things straight away and we hang on to them like forever, you know, what's all that about? Is that a form of fear, do you think? Having to hang on to stuff in case. Case of what? Yeah, that's the thing. So, yeah, my quad cortex has left the desk and it's gone into the timeout cupboard, which is like the long-term timeout cupboard, actually. So what I need to do is I need to get that up and advertised for sale. So I'm going to sell it. Sentiment is fear in disguise. There we go. So there must be something going on there. So, although I find it just like loads of hassle selling stuff, You know, it's just like advertising it and dealing with people. You know, it's just. But maybe that is a form of fear. So fear is definitely an interesting one, because I think for me, it's the main source of certainly the barrier that holds me back on a lot of stuff, you know. And I think it's really crippled me in the past, you know. When we're younger, we just tend to do things, you know, and off I went. I can't ever remember really being that fearful when I started my first band. It was just like I had to do this thing, and off I went. And I don't ever remember fear, but certainly in adult life, it's been a big thing, and I really did experience it. The first time round when I started to kind of launch my career. Hi Des, how you doing? Des is in Nashville. Wow. Hi Des. We're talking about fear today. Fear. So I can give you lots of examples of fear and sort of how, you know, I've overcome it, but it's quite an easy one to deal with at the end of the day. So when I think back is 2014, I was really, really wanting to, you know, relaunch my career as a dance music producer, which I did in the end. But, you know, it was a tough road, and all the time I felt fear and I felt resistance, and I had to work through it. And one of the ways I worked through it is at every juncture I had to deal with all of the things that we've been talking about. The conditions of success. I needed to know what I was focusing on. I needed to have a clear plan. And why that was important is the thing with fear is the reason we have fear is because we are dealing with the unknown. And this is the thing with music. So basically, when we were back in the days where we were throwing spears about on the Serengeti plains, we were in tribes, you see. And when you're in a tribe, you didn't want to stick out too much because you'd be kicked out of the tribe. And if you were kicked out of the tribe back in the olden days, it would certainly mean certain death. You know, you'd be fighting in the wilderness on your own, and you wouldn't be able to survive. So you needed to be in a tribe. And the problem sort of with the way things are now is that we still have that tribe mentality, and that is part of the fear for us. So we don't want to do anything, so we stick out and we draw fire and we get criticized. That's the thing. So, and it was the thing that I was first worried about. You know, I was really worried about making all of this music, right, and releasing it and everybody hating it, and me then having to live my rest of that life with like terrible music. And that's just not true. Because what music simply is it's just a moment captured of your life in time, really, isn't it? It's just what I'm producing, what I'm making, how I'm feeling at the time, and that's all it is. When you're making music, you know, you're making it purely for yourself, all right? And you're not worrying about, and this isn't like what you think when you're in fear, of course, but ideally, we're not worrying about what the possible future outcome is going to be. And we're not worried about who's going to like it. And the reason we're not worried about who's going to like it is because we're making the music ourselves. Interestingly, not for ourselves, I should say. Interesting, got this book. So I've read it. Rick Rubin, the Creative Act, A Way of Being. It's really good. It's like a Bible. I'm sure he talks about fear and that. But certainly, Stallion. Okay. Some people like your music, others won't. Yes, and not everybody in the world is going to like your music. So I remember coaching on this mastery program, and I remember we had the idea based off David Deutsch. We were looking into the idea of object perfection. whether that could exist in music, which was a really interesting concept to be thinking about when you're making music. But there's a whole lecture by physicist, philosopher David Deutsch, and he talks about why everybody agrees a flower is beautiful. So is it therefore possible to make a piece of music beautiful when it is, that everybody in the whole entire world likes it? And is it possible to get close to that? Very difficult, I think. Almost impossible, I would say. Because the thing is, right, with music and our tastes, for a start, the world's forever changing. So you've got that variable. And you've also got the thing of how can you possibly make something that everybody in every genre is going to like? And obviously, how do you get everybody in the world to agree that that piece of music is perfect as well? So it's very, very difficult to do that. However, there are certain things you can do that would get you close, right? That would get you somewhere. One of the things that you look at is pentatonic scale. It's part of the harmonic series, isn't it? Therefore, it's in the law of nature, and everybody does accept that as being a pleasing sound. That when you play those notes, they do actually usually fit and sound a good starting point for what you're doing. And some notes don't sound as good, even if they're in tune. So, as we know, when we're in the natural minor key, that minor sixth can sound too minory, or it just sounds flat and dull and doesn't fit. It's not out of tune. It's just a note you land on, and it just sounds flat. It's really weird. But yes, there is this, this idea of objective perfection which we can work towards. But at the end of the day, right, there is no way that we are going to produce a piece of music that everybody's going to like, right? And people are going to hate it. And people will, keyboard warriors, will or may say something horrible to you. But it doesn't matter. It's not, they're just not into your thing. And we move on. And that's how, we roll with it. But when we're sort of new to the game and we haven't released music for a while, or we're releasing music that we haven't done in a genre, and we're entering a genre, a different tribe, so to speak, releasing music, there can be fear. And there certainly was that. I was desperately wanting to get into dance music, and it was entering into a new tribe, which I didn't really have a lot of data on, but I was just thinking, all right, I'm a kind of rock indie kind of shred guy, and I really want to do this music, and I don't even go to a club. I don't know if anybody's going to actually like me. So there's all this sort of like stuff going on. But at the end of the day, what I had to do is I just had to make the music and release it and find out. So one of the ways is just to dip your toe in, isn't it? It's like the graded exposure thing. It's like, when we're looking at fear, it's like breaking that problem down and like doing the least amount, So the last time I really experienced fear, right? But I'm experiencing fear from an experienced fearing person, if that makes sense. It was actually the whole live thing. Not so bad with Thomas, because it was all organised and all that kind of stuff. And we had the McLaughlin Hutch show, and that was set up, and there was, he was working on sort of the cameras and the tech on that. So that was quite easy. I just had to learn my parts, turn up and do a gig. But where it got tricky for me was, I thought, right, well, that's great. That's sort of that, McLaughlin Hutch thing sorted, and it's good fun sort of going on and doing stuff. And I'm in a comfort zone because, I'm playing the music that I've wrote and all that kind of stuff. And that's great. But what was on the back of my mind for a while was finding a way to for me to engage with an audience in person like this, and that was going to be live streaming. And the reason I actually came to that was simply because I wanted to set up a coaching business, all right? And one of the problems I have is with setting something up like that is, you need to form a mailing list, right? And you get people to sign in. So I do have a mailing list, which I don't actually bother with. And this is something I'm going to come back to, right? But I don't like doing long emails because I have dyslexia and it takes a huge amount of time. So that really is a fear. It's like I just don't want to do it, right? And the reason when you have an email list, especially from like a coaching point of view, is you're wanting people to sign in, okay? But then what you're trying to do is you are really wanting to get people to know you, all right? It's like the text version of this live stream. All right. So, for example, you'll send, they'll sign into the emailing list. You might give them a free thing and say whatever, like, oh, come and check my channel out or something like that. There'll be another email telling them a bit about you and your background. There'll be another one then saying what you stand for. So, for example, I want to help people write and release music, with the least amount of pain possible. So then you'll have something like that. And then after that, you'll just send emails out talking about a scenario that you've been in personally that they could relate to, and then how you kind of overcame it, and then just summarizing some sort of interesting insight that they can then practice in their lives, and that's what you're doing. But that takes a long time, all right? So I thought, like, the best way for people to get to know me, right, is on a live stream. So that was the idea. But how do you do that? You need cameras, you need all of this stuff. So it was a mission. But I had the thing. I'd made my mind up. I really wanted to do that thing, But there was fear of doing it. I haven't really talked on a mic for a very long period of time. I've never made music in front of people, like live, in a live situation. I was thinking, well, people will have certain expectations. They'll expect the magic wand or something, and like stuff will happen, and I might not perform too good, and then I won't be this like amazing, invincible musician who can do everything. So there's all this sort of stuff. The fear of fear, exactly. That I had to overcome. And I just thought, well, look, I think it's a good thing for people to see, because at least my early flailings about on a live, people be able to see that. The other thing is, it's like not that many people will turn up anyway. So I might as well just dip in and have a go at it. And it wasn't easy, I can tell you that. I mean, if you go back and look at the early lives, I just had a webcam and it was awful. And I don't think I was even thinking of coaching then. I was just thinking about getting up and actually doing some music and writing McLaughlin and Hutch stuff. So, and then giving a few insights. That's all I was doing. It wasn't anything as developed as this, But in terms of fear and exposure, it was a good way to start. So I just started with Big Ableton Live, me in a very dark room and like a red light. It was like I was on a submarine that was about to sink. And then just a little box with me in it. And me being me, I thought, well, I'm just not going to bother getting dressed at all. And because it's only a small box, I'm not doing a bigger window, I'll just turn up my pajamas. So like all those streams were like really early in the morning and me in my pajamas. Looking terrible, by the way. And I looked and I sounded terrible. The music I was doing was all right, though, eventually. But at that point, when I did that live, I knew that was the only way, really, that I could, try and set up this coaching business. So I wasn't really advertising coaching or anything like that. I might have mentioned that I did do some coaching. But I wasn't opening it as in terms of the business that I run now. But what was leading me to do those lives was fear. So the way that I read fear now is it's a compass, all right? And it's a compass and it's pointing me in the direction that I should be going in. So then it's always just a way of working out how to do that thing in small, manageable chunks, So there's an example. The smallest thing I can do, because you have to go live, was to just go on YouTube, advertise it to a small group of people, little box of me in a funny dark room, doing music. And it was a great way just to get used to yourself, just on camera, or really for me, just getting used to myself making music in front of a bunch of random people. Because it changes everything. You're in the studio and you're making stuff, and you feel like, oh, now it's a bit of a performance. So you tend to do the creative net isn't as experiment. It's like much smaller, and you're just doing things that you're sure of doing. That was the first things on the live, because you want to just impress people. So you do and you produce it, which isn't like completely 100% the honest way to do things, but you have to start somewhere. And initially, the way I was wanting to progress in a very, very short space of time was to do music how, I make it honestly. And that is like just getting up, right? Sitting in front of the computer and just doing something and not worrying about it. The thing that I do worry about or think about, I never worry about I worry about very little. But one of the problems that you want to be thinking about is kind of breaking out from doing this, the same thing. So that would be one of the fears, it's like not repeating yourself. And part of that is just confidence. You're in front of people, you're doing the things that you're certain of doing because it'll achieve a certain result, which isn't quite what I'm on about, right? Because I'm a coach here. What I'm doing is I'm telling people that uncertainty is a good thing. It is a good thing. We don't know what the future is. Anything could possibly happen. We're doing music, so we're safe, all right? So that's fine. We know that. There's nothing to be fearful of. But it is the unknown. And as a music producer, we have to embrace the unknown. Honestly, there's so much time I spend with people, and it's just ingrained into us, me as well, and I've got over it. And that is, we have this results expectation. We want to know what the result will be. If I do X, what will the result be? And that's fear, isn't it? The fear of wasting your time, If I learn, it's ridiculous really, isn't it? If I learn the melodic minor mode, I remember Guthrie Govan saying a similar thing, the fear of learning the melodic minor modes is, if I don't use them, will I have wasted my time? How will I get my time back? And it's funny what he said. He says there's no time back guarantee. If you waste your time doing something, you're not going to get that time back. It's up to you to purpose it, really, isn't it? So we can't, there's no time back guarantee. We just have to do the thing, okay, in some sort of small, manageable chunk, okay, that allows us to, when we get the result, to course correct. So, and that's exactly what I was doing with those earlier lives. I was thinking, right, I've got the first thing, fear of failure, 100%. We don't want to fail. But the thing is, right, there is no failure, because I can go back, I can delete those videos, but I just leave them up. I'm proud of them. And I'm proud of them because I can have this conversation now and say, have a look at my earlier videos. In fact, I was listening to Nick Johnson masterclass yesterday in the car, and he was talking about his earlier YouTube videos, because he was doing it, 10, 15 years ago, when he was very young. And he deleted all those videos. He had terrible hair, obviously, terrible camera, and it was like a fly on the wall in his life. So there's just like stuff happening that probably wasn't that relevant to what he was trying to do, and it was quite unfocused. But a great way just to practice and expose yourself and to like experiment with ideas. I know he was saying things like some of it wasn't him playing and him going to watch gigs and all this sort of stuff. And I thought that was really, really interesting. So initially, it was like, right, the only way I can do what I'm doing to get outside of like doing the emails, the solution to this is to have a live channel, because then at least I'll be capitalising on the people who are interested in McRockland and Hutch that can come and see me, the ones who are interested at the time, because I wasn't really shredding, that can come and watch me do all the keyboard production kind of stuff, and that should be interesting for them. Then anybody who's interested in joining the coaching group can eventually, when I offer it, they have got that option as well. So there I was, rubbishy camera, and I just started doing the thing. By doing what I was doing, I was able to generate data, and I was able to get over the fear in a manageable way, because it's just practice, as we know. It's just repeating that performance, and that's exactly what I did. I started and I kept going. And I kept going, and I kept getting into the routine of getting up and doing these lives where literally I'd just turn up and make music and probably ignore people and just do my thing and let them enjoy watching. You know, if they want to be there, they'll be there. If they don't, doesn't matter, you know. Although sometimes you do think, oh, right, I must have been so boring, everybody will have left and all this kind of thing. I've never had on a live, I've never had anything really horrible said to me. There's never been anything like bad or anything like that's ever happened. It's always been really good. Let's have a look at the chat. Yeah, so I just caught Stallion there. This can be a very deep discussion, right? So anybody who wants to pitch in about fear stuff, do, and we'll start talking. So. Right. Some people like your music, some people won't. Just catching up. Enzo, hey Tim, gotta go to get bed, but just saying hello. Hello. Fear of fear, right? You're doing great from my angle. Brilliant. I'm sort of like over my fear now. And now because of those live sessions, you're stuck with people like me for life. So Kevin is somebody who I do coach, and he's coming along leaps and bounds and releasing music, and will be now developing something special to do, which I can't really say. I wish you had a bit more aggro. Maybe you prefer it like this. I'm okay with a bit of aggro, actually. I mean, like you know, believe you me, I'm good at handling it. You'd be surprised. It's part of my main day-to-day, actually. Okay, there's a sports box sound called that. It's a very good track if you haven't heard it. Right, I'll check it out. This can be very deep, yeah. Okay. Breadaxe, it's become worse for me now that I'm older. I feel like I'm not practice or progressing efficiently enough. Like I'm running out of time. That's very, very interesting. The time thing. And I wonder if you know, not that I'm old or anything, but I wonder if that's the appeal of like synthwave to me, is, you know, when we become older, we have less time in the future. So therefore, what we tend to do is we tend to look back and then bring things forward in the past. But actually, that's a great way to make music, because at the end of the day, it's very difficult. Right, and again, I did a whole research project on this. Right, it's very, very difficult to think of just off the top of your head what is the next new thing, and what you tend to find with music is, instead of thinking of something new, okay, the way it's done is actually you just go to the past and you find something and you bring it into the future and then repurpose it, and it becomes something else. It becomes something new again. And this is absolutely evident in electronic music, that this happens. There's been so many trends come from the 90s into like what you would consider the very modern sort of EDM music, you know. I can 100% vouch for that. But for the older thing, I mean, for me, I did sit on the fence briefly, thinking, what is the point in me learning to do, economy picking? I'm going to change everything, and I haven't got time. Will there be enough time? I'm never going to be as good, you know, and it's going to take valuable time and all this sort of stuff. And you're getting older, and it's just not true. You can learn things much, much quicker. when I think back to when I was younger, I mean, my progress on guitar was really, really rapid. So why should that progression stop just because I'm older? Actually, the opposite is true, because when you're older, you're more methodical. Okay, you're less flighty, and you're more focused. You have experience, so you can learn things a lot quicker. So you can compensate for that lack of time, if that makes sense. So so things are just the same as they were for me now. In fact, better in terms of learning new things than it was back then. And certainly, I've got years and years and years ahead of me doing music. I'm literally going to drop dead with a guitar or something, or a mouse in my hand. Hopefully, a guitar. I don't want to drop dead at the computer doing something electronic. I think actually, dying shredding with a guitar in your hand is much more romantic than that. He was dead. We found him dead in front of his computer halfway through programming a beat on EXO. It's like, doesn't sound as good as lying dead in a really cool sort of outstretched warrior dead on the battlefield with your guitar. Sorry to get morbid. So again, everything's just the same when you get older. The other good thing about being older is you've got more money usually to throw at resources as well. So when I wanted to learn to economy pick, in all honesty, I started off a bit, and then I just thought, sod this. I'll get Rick Graham to show me, and I just went to him. And then any new technique I wanted to learn, I just go to him and then get the foundations, and then off I go and I practice it, and it's just putting the time in and being disciplined. And another advantage of being older is you've got more discipline. I wouldn't allow pictures of me very much until digital. I figured I could delete if I had to. Okay. Fear is a panic attack. I haven't read anything by him, but I'll take a screenshot because I'm going to check it out. Okay. Carlos, years ago, Ravens, I think they're silver. What is your reference? Do you think there's an age limit on releasing music for the first time? I'm close to 40. No, there's absolutely not. And you've got, 48 is young. You've got years and years and years to go. It doesn't matter about age. You've got so much experience. I mean, this is the whole thing. Like, with synthwave, there's a whole 80s genre there. And because you were alive in the 80s, you can just about remember a bit of it. But you can go ahead and you can produce, like, look, age isn't part of this. I don't know where the age thing comes from, unless you're wanting to do K-pop and actually be a singer in a boy band. It's like age isn't going to bother you, age to me is an advantage. So 48 is a great age to be. It's perfectly fine. You could be releasing music within the next year easily and starting to build. Well, I mean, there isn't much money actually in music, but you can certainly start building and releasing and getting stuff out on Spotify, because like now, the music industry in a lot of ways, a lot in terms of exposure, is a lot fairer place. We don't need to have major record deals. We can have all the tools that we need to make something up to an industry standard, whatever that is, and put it out there. So 48 is a great age to be doing. Any 60, right? I've coached people, right, like in the 60s, releasing music, and they're having a great time, and it's like, it's keeping them alive. It's just amazing watching these, what you would consider older people, living their best possible lives. So age just not a thing. um, be like Bobby Roche and earn a Grammy at 83. Okay, there we go. Wheelchair pop. All you need is one song for the top 10. Yeah. So there's all of that. But at the end of the day, right, if you've got something to say in the world and you just want to do it, then you should just be doing music. At the end of the day, we're just making music for ourselves, and it doesn't matter how old you are, Don't exclude yourself from the fun, whatever you do. And of course, the shameless plug, anybody who's, want to join a coaching group, I have available spaces, and, I will do that walk with you. From having no ideas to developing your ideas to releasing the ideas, and we can do that time and time again. But my email, if you're interested in coaching, email is in the description about, I think, on this channel. Let's talk about choking, really. Oh, right, okay. I don't fancy choking. Okay, Enzo, so streaming schedule for this week is, today, I put the time in wrong. It's 6:15 on a Monday. It's 6:15 tomorrow, Tuesday. Wednesday, it's going to be an evening stream, so that's going to be 7:30. And then we've got Thursday morning, 6:15, and Friday morning, 6:15, and then it's like the fortnight thing. So I think there'll be me and Thomas doing a live on the Saturday. That would be earmarked for that. So depending on whether we're both free, then that could happen. And then hopefully there'll be a Sunday 11 o'clock. But bear in mind, the Wednesday, the Saturdays, and the Sundays it's just more of a studio hang and chill out session. When you blow your big chance choking. All right, here we go. I crashed in front of 7,000 people during a live set in 1997. Wow. Anyway, it's all in the past. And again, you can get useful data, I'm sure, from something like that. But that's that's a lot, isn't it? But anyway, back to fear. So, talking about my latest experience of fear. All right, great, Enzo. It'll be great to see you on these. Yeah, it was huge in my country, and had a panic attack. Wow. To me, it is still here, but I learned to live with it. Well, yes, that must be hard, Stallion. So I suppose, without really kind of getting into the whole coaching thing on here, which probably wouldn't be a good idea. If it's something you want to talk about, not live, we can always talk about that. So where was I? Yeah. So, like, one of the problems for me was just doing, going on the live and just doing stuff that I felt safe with. And it took a little bit of confidence to then start kind of really getting into my actual real flow where I would just take chances. So what I'm saying is I just took small steps into doing this live, because there's just really no way. I was walking into the uncertain, and I could have predicted what that is and spent a load of money at it. And so then I was doing that, and basically, I think it was probably it wasn't even 100% a regular stream, those early ones. I probably did a week, then fell off, realising it looks really awful, and then not knowing what to do. All right. No, thanks for that, Stellian. No, that's brilliant. Cool. So then what happened is I thought, well, great, we've got something set up, we can get into the habit, we can do music, but now I need to think about the coaching thing and how I'm going to get out there. And then that's why we have sort of the way things look now. So I thought, right, well, I really like streaming, I'm feeling comfortable with it, do an upgrade. So upgraded to a mediocre webcam. And just tried to look about the room to find a decent look. And then luckily I had some Hue lights and I was able to light the place and make it look sort of okay. And then that was the start of the more serious, more presentable streams, where I could, people could see more of me like this and get to know me more. And it served me very, very well. Yeah, so there's always wins as well, isn't there? Even when things turn out badly, at the end of the day, you're turning up, you're winning, you're getting some data back, and you can use that. It's new knowledge, again, as I always say, to improve with. And obviously, there is the thing of making it up to that point in the journey. I mean, and I think when you get used to the environment and it's just like, for example, something could happen on this stream which might be totally embarrassing, but I would like to think I would just rub it off and just come back the next day, and just keep going, because I know about that fear, and things go and memories go, and that isn't you, and we're forever evolving and progressing, and moving on. I mean, when I think about it, I'm a completely different person. Like, probably every cell and molecule in my body's completely different to when I was I was a teenager. God, and when I think about some of the embarrassing situations then. But at the end of the day, it's just a reconstruction of a memory that probably isn't even that accurate. So yes, so the fear thing, in short, it's just a way of just doing smaller, manageable chunks and testing, and then just course correcting, Unfortunately, with being in a band, sometimes you can go to, like Stellian's situation, I imagine you can go from literally like one thing to another thing, and it's suddenly super massive and overwhelming. And that does actually, happen quite a lot. There's, loads of dance producers, that'll suddenly be in the bedrooms, and then they get the promoter on board, and then the next thing they're thrown out in front of thousands of people. And there was this whole thing of basically people just being bedroom producers because you can do that, and then having to like suddenly learn to DJ to do a massive gig. And the fear that must bring would be like massive. Yeah, living in the moment, living in the present, is really important for me, and I'm very much that. And this is the whole thing with music as well, and why I'm really addicted to music is flow, basically, and that's something that we're going to be talking about later on. in the back end of the month. But the thing about flow, for me, is there is no past and there is no future. There's only now. And because we're sort of very much in the millisecond of the now, I mean, I don't think we can be completely, on it. There must be like a little bit of a little bit of latency. But at that point, whoever I am, I'm experiencing the real me. Because when we think about that self 1 and self 2, and we have the head voice telling us what we should be thinking and what we should be doing, the editor, that's not us. The person we are is the person listening to that. And when I made that distinction, it was absolutely mind-blowing. And then I realised that, when I am in flow, that's who I am. I discover who I am when I'm in the act of actually making music. And that was like super brilliant. And I just love that. And it's like another world for me to escape to, and there is no, when you're in that, there is no fear, there is no consequences, there's no time, there's no decisions, it's pure magic, I think. And I think like with the work I do sort of in mental health, and especially in that, is it's a really powerful tool, is I specialize in getting people into flow. Because of that, it just gives you a break from yourselves, doesn't it? Like doing something, a music activity that takes you away from everything and takes you away from yourself, is an incredibly powerful tool. But yes. So... just checking the chat. But yes, as Des was saying, there's obviously that fear of failure. But when we're making music, there really is no failure, is there? In terms of making something and then releasing it to the public. Because at the end of the day, you're only just generating, data for yourself so you can improve. And we're making music only for ourselves. And the only way to really hear our music is when it's out there in the public. And this has been really valuable for me doing with my guitar playing. So just before I was doing sort of the talk show, I was writing music all on guitar. So that was a big deal for me because I've always just done everything for years and years. I've been an electronic producer. And then I've decided that, in order for me to get even more better at guitar, I should just start using it as a tool to write with, which has its whole set of problems that I've had to overcome. So there's another thing of fear is, exposing like all of my minute flaws on a daily basis, because you're going to have good days and bad days and people are going to see that. But at the end of the day, I don't care because it's human and this is just what it's all about, isn't it? But because I've been suddenly quickly writing a track, almost like live looping and then jamming over the top, I can like listen back to where I'm at. And, when you hear yourself after something, that's when you get the most useful data. So when I release music and when I hear the McLaughlin and Hutch stuff, that data that I get when it's been released, when I listen to that music for the first few times that it's actually gone out, that's when I hear it in a really different way. And then I can work out, what I need to improve on. It's very difficult. I think that information that you get at that point is much more honest for feedback, for self-feedback, than it is when you're within the process of writing that music or when you think something is finished. I think you have to play it out to people and there's feedback there, but it's that point that you give yourself feedback when you're playing it to like other people that's important. So doing the lives was a great way of finding out exactly at what point my playing was. So by doing that, watch it back on the live stream and I can see what's good and what's not so good and how I can improve it. And that's the way I do things. So when I'm watching these things back, I'm doing, I'll stop it and then I'll write down what the wins, problems, and the opportunities could be. And then you just work on those things. And that's where, those are the areas that you need to do. So it's really good from that point of view. Those times on lives where I played wrong notes, or Des has been helping me with my pens, which is, actually that's one of the things, me bending notes, right? There is a fear of that, and I'll tell you what it is. It's because I play acoustic guitar, right? Okay, so totally different, or like all the time, every day. So different feel, and you're bending notes on that, and then you come onto like a headless Kiesel, right? And you don't have to bend as hard, and the muscle memory's totally wrong, so you're just always sharp. It's crazy till you like adjust, and then I'm back out on acoustic guitar, and then it's all the intonations all to hell. So it's a real battle, that one. I think deep thinking and understanding are the best weapons against fear, absolutely, and also doing a little bit of experiencing it in smaller chunks. That exposure is also really important, because you're doing the thing and then you realize actually this isn't as bad, and then you get used to that situation. So I would always say that actually doing the thing in some sort of manageable chunks is a great way. Gramps, I've been working on music theory and learning chord melody, but I'm starting to think that all I really want to do is improvise. Well, there you go. Improvise. I absolutely love improvising. That's my thing. I'd say do what you want to do and become the best at that. 100%. Yeah. So that's why you overbend tone bends. I see. Yeah. So that's why we get the overbending for a bit. So like if you think that Saturday, I'll have been on an acoustic guitar potentially for 3 hours that day. So by the time I'm getting onto a Kiesel, it's like well out. Gramps, I've been watching Long Strange Trip, the story of the Grateful Dead, and how high on LSD they were, saying the same things as the jazz teachers. There we go. Yeah, so actually I've got gauge 9s on my acoustic guitar, but it's like a headstock, so it's still like completely different. And then Thomas did put me on a string diet, which was a very sensible thing. So, because I'd just injure myself now doing what I'm doing on 11s. Like 11s isn't a great, just make, like now, maybe it is an age thing. Maybe just 11s, making your life easier in all ways, is the way to go. Stallion, when I started playing 1994, the music I was playing was rejected by the majority. I had like 200 to 300 people tops at parties and kept going, of course. And that's it. It is a hard knock, and there'll be lots of people who don't like you, and some people who absolutely love whatever you're doing. Yeah, string diets. I mean, that's the other part of it, is you've just got to be resilient, haven't you? And do your thing because you want to do it. Which is why it always makes sense to do music for yourself. So that was my latest fear experiences, you know. So, like, in summary, you know, it's just what I've found is just working out what it is you want to do, and then working out what's the smallest amount I can do to collect data, to like build on this thing, to experience the thing, and then work from there. Tim, you ever try some psychedelic things? No, I don't fancy that. I like reality, Gramps. I think you can't beat reality, can you? In fact, I don't. And you know, I don't actually have a television. You know, there's no television. I drink non-alcoholic beer, coffee. That's about it. That's the only mind-altering things I've got. Well, I mean, it's my version of reality. It's probably not like actual reality, but it's where, you know, this is how I like to live, Gramps. You know, it's not so bad. I think the other interesting thing about fear as well is when I released a lot of music, I was always like reluctant to release it because I thought, well, if everybody hates it, you know, I'll be dragging this horrible music about. And the truth of the matter is when I was doing electronic music, you can't like all of the music you release. Very rarely do I really like everything that I release. You know, I know that they're good examples of what that piece of music wants to be, and most of my electronic music was like that. You know, there's probably about a handful of things that I think, oh, they're really good, that I actually personally like. But when I used to release stuff, it was just, I just had to work off, you know, it was done and it was a good example. The question was, it's a good example of what this music wants to be in itself. And at that point, I would know that I could release it, and then I would put it out there. And I would think, you know, oh, somebody will complain about it, you know, but they never did. People just are always like super supportive. And so I've got like a whole back catalogue of music, right, that I'm not like, yeah, about, because I'm just not a fan of myself. So that's an interesting one, and this is a very common thing to happen. You know, I know that the good tracks, or I wouldn't have released them, and other labels. I mean, most of my stuff then was signed by other labels anyway, and in fact, all of it. So there was some sort of like kind of curation going on there. There was a filter. I mean, if it was terrible, they wouldn't put it out, would they? But I just had to like let go and put the thing out for the world to enjoy, because there's a point, right, where you write music with me, and I think this is, and it gets to a point where it doesn't belong to you, okay, and it belongs to the world. It's there for the world to enjoy, and for you to keep it would be wrong. So it has to, you know, the music has to go out into the world in some sort of form, really. It's been a long time, but had some creative moments. Cool. This way, you can form your audience and become something people know. People know what to expect from. Yeah. So, I mean, that kind of label whoring thing made a lot of sense back then, because you were tapping into other labels and you were gleaning some of the audiences to come over and to you. So the label whoring thing kind of worked there. What it didn't work very well is being 100% creatively true to yourself, because when you go in that route, you have to listen to the label that you want to get signed to, and the reason you want to get signed to that label is because there's a certain audience, and that label will have a certain creative manifesto. So they'll look for certain things in the music, and you have to fulfill that, and then you're talking about you know, who you are as well amongst all of this. So it's not like 100% making music for yourself, you know. There's a bit of this is what they're like, which is wrong in a way. It's not something I would do now because of that. But when I was full on dance producing, that was the game that you played. You know, you want to get on this label, then the music has to sound like this particular. It has to sound like this. So it's like what they want and what you want, and you're kind of playing with those two concepts. So it's really difficult because at the end of the day, they want to hear something different, but they want to hear something different within their creative manifesto. It's like, it's you know, and then you're wanting to like reflect yourself in your music. So it's a tough call. I know somebody who claims to be writing and recording music. I know somebody who claims to be writing and recording music in his studio all the time, but haven't heard a note from him in 20 years. Wow. Call round and see what he's got. I wonder what his home studio's like. Like, some people just like getting all the gear together, though, don't they? And just having something and sitting in it. Maybe it's like, I don't know, because I haven't had one. Maybe it's like having a train. Maybe it's like, you know, when you have a train set. Maybe it's like that kind of mentality. So you set your studio up and you don't really do anything that's going to do anything seriously, but you're like kind of sitting in it and pretending and upgrading it. Maybe he's a ghost producer. Good point. One time I realised that reptiles are constantly laughing their heads off, except when you look at them. Okay, I'll calm down. Brilliant. Yeah, the cat. Oh, right. Excellent. Stallion, I have a friend that has such a home studio. He bought all the expensive stuff because he liked to have it and play it now and then. No other reason. So that's fair enough. But I know, like at times it can lead to, oh, right, I've got all this stuff and I really should be making music, and then you start feeling really bad about it, and then you don't know what to do. And so I do see that quite a bit. It's like, I've got all this equipment, I start ideas, but I never finish anything, and really I want to be finishing stuff, I want to be doing the full cycle and releasing. And I too have been there. Because I had my studio. Despite having, you know, periods of releasing lots of music prior to that, I just hit a wall. But you know, could afford all the gear, and I would sit there and wasn't able, just complete blockage. Wasn't able to finish anything. Desperately wanted to do dance music and go into a new genre, and it was just a battle. Until actually I got coached, and then things became much more manageable. You know, and I remember the fear of my first release very, very well. And I've told the story many times, you know, Two Dutch. My first ever track, there was about 5 offers from labels, and they were all really good. And I picked Two Dutch because they were just a great team and they look really cool. But they wanted to release my first track, and they had to keep hassling me. You know, they had to keep saying, come on, where is it? Is it fit? You know, have you done it? Like, just send it. I want to release it. And I would just hang on to it. It was bizarre because I was thinking more, what if I don't do it? Then what? What does that mean for me? And not doing it was actually worse than doing it. So eventually I realised, look, I'm just got it. This is what I want to do. I'm getting a great opportunity. I just, you know, at that point, I'd had to jump off the cliff. But it was terrifying. And I remember mastering that track as well. And the funny thing is, to actually get through it and do the release, I had to get my daughter's. I don't know who suggested this or whether it was me, but I remember like hugging my daughter's pet, cuddly hippo to get rid of the anxiety in my stomach. It was that crippling. And that was, I think that first release, that was 2014, 2015. And I did that one thing, and then when I realised, suddenly it went out, and when I realised it all worked and people liked it, that was it. I had all of that data, and I had the roadmap then, and I thought, brilliant, now all I need to do is I just need to do that again with a different bit of music, and that's what I did, and the same thing happened. I thought, brilliant. I'll try something a little bit more challenging on the music front, and I'll put that out. And that went out, and that's how I went. But initially, just getting over that first hurdle, once I did it, and I realised it wasn't that bad, that was it. I was off. And I became addicted to releasing music. Good things about you can release under various names, but as a DJ, you're there and they'll throw rotten cabbage at you. Yeah. And I think like one of the problems like DJs have, and the system I use, right, is designed for them basically not having any time to produce any music. So when they're out, they'll write music, they'll get popular, promoter will book them, they'll do the gigs, and then they haven't got any fresh new music. And then if you don't have any new music, unless you've got an absolute mega hit that's going to last a lifetime, which is very rare, then you're back to square one. You're back to your bedroom with no, and gigging is the way that you're making your money. Then you have to then find that next track, So the best way to write good music is to constantly be writing music, So you're at the point where, you're writing more than you'll ever finish and release. So you're always in this situation of you creatively keeping yourself under that pressure. You're keeping yourself engaged. I know the Rick Rubin thing saying with Eminem, you constantly write lyrics, and he's like, well, you never use all of those. And Eminem's like, well, it doesn't really matter because the reason I do it is practice. So for me, I don't, I have to sit and I have to write every day. So even now, when I'm off the stream, I have to find some other point in the day now to sort of do something, to write something new, to practice that skill, because that's the fuel for the engine, isn't it? When we look at the music machine, if there's one thing I need to do all the time, and that is like doing the splurging, making the seeds, as Rick Rubin would say, and then hopefully some of those will have potential, which I can grow later on. Just checking I got that. So it's I've got a little bit of time left. I'm gonna have another coffee, I think. So fear, yes, it's a tough one to talk about, I must admit. Fear. So can anybody quickly tell me, if it's not too much effort, have they got any magic fear busting tips that they would like to share? Yeah, coffee time, Scott. So tomorrow, that's going to be an interesting one. No, not fear boosting, fear busting. But not boosting, busting. No, coffee's fine. I mean, I'm all right with that. No, fear busting. Overcoming fear, I should have said, Stellian. Might be my accent. Yeah, so tomorrow I'll be talking about boredom. Boredom discussion tomorrow. When we're bored, what do we do? Yeah, not give up. I think you've just got to not give up. And then the other thing is, for me, I just realise I'm just another grain of sand and I'll be easily forgotten about, So if the worst happens, just keep going. The brain is a powerful tool. It's like the only tool, really. Without my brain, it's like nothing's going to work. If the brain is that strong, it can perfectly mimic a heart attack. I think it can be as good as doing the opposite. Yeah. And that's everything about me. It's all been brain training. 100%. So Tuesday, we're going to talk about boredom. And then Thursday, which I think will be an important one. So Thursday is all about skills. And I might even play some guitar for that. I've been doing a ton of, I'm always playing on it, but I've been doing quite a bit of practice. Yeah, the only inconvenience in training needs that's true. There is a time factor, but what we can do with time is we can make the most use of it, can't we? We can feel like, and I know it's more than possible in the studio. Like now, when I used to produce music without training, I used to think that I needed 6 hours to do something, and like now, I get 6 hours worth of work done in an hour, easy. Probably less than what I would do back before I was coached. So yes, we can change our concept of time. Therefore, almost bending time. Yeah, honestly, the coaching thing has been brilliant for me. It's the one thing that I've had the most gains with. As being coached, it's been unbelievable, and it was the one thing that I thought I never needed, and it's the one thing that I thought would be boring, dull, and not very exciting, and it's been the whole opposite of that. I just thought, because you feel like, oh, what am I getting out of it? Because it's all to do with you, isn't it? Whereas if you turn up for a lesson, it's like, all right, I'm going to learn this cool lick, but it's not dealing with how you're going to deal with life, is it? And that's the most important thing, is how are you going to use all of these skills to connect with the world? And that's what coaching's all about. It's facilitating those skills. We're all great at learning skills, but it's dealing with that confusion of, now what do I do? It's like when you go to university, they don't really tell you that. You learn more skills, don't you? And you develop skills, and you kind of make your skills unique, when you're on a master's program. But there's nothing really addressing the serious issues of actually going out in the world and making a career out of it, understanding your audiences and understanding how to engage with that and how to fulfill your potential. So I do find that's like lacking or non-existent in my experience. So yeah, I highly recommend any coaching. Because at the end of the day, when you're being coached, it's all on you, isn't it? The coach is, like, in its purest form, if you get non-directive coaching, all right, then they're just asking you questions. And actually, it doesn't, you could go to a coach, right, that's not even a musician, all right, if it's non-directive, because their skill is just asking you the correct questions so you can reflect on your situation and then come up with a solution and then come up with something that you get excited about, that you feel is like doable, and off you go and you do it. And that's how it was with my developing this live show. I had to actually kind of coach myself, because the seed of this idea was a coaching program that I was on. As what actually happened is I enrolled on it, and then I ended up actually one of the coaches on it, weirdly enough. So I was kind of being coached and coaching at the same time. And that's how I came up with the idea for this broadcast. So, I think that is it. Make things, chop things up into manageable chunks that you don't feel so fearful of, and just give yourself limited exposure to the thing that you're fearing. And that's it, and it takes time. And if you're doing something live like this, a lot of the time it's going to be tumbleweeds and there's not going to be that many people on. And when it does build up steam, then you're going to be more proficient anyway and more confident. Like now, I'm not on shows with Thomas and stuff like that. When if I played something wrong, I'd go, oh, I'd die. But like now, I play stuff wrong all the time and I'm not bothered. And it's great because I'm immediately focused actually doing the next thing right. All right. Sorry, yes, Stellian, I did. I was going to reply back to it, but I did receive your email the other day, so I have got that. Yes. No, I've got your email. So that's cool. We're in touch. So as always, thanks everybody for coming along. And I'll be on tomorrow. We'll be talking about boredom. It might be quite boring, actually. Because I don't know. It'll be an interesting one for me to dive into. Because how do you get over boredom? I've got a few things that I can share. I should be multi-streaming today. So I should be streaming on, I don't know, I was like a bit bleary-eyed last night. It was just before I forgot to schedule the live, and then I then suddenly jumped out of bed and did it. Good, you don't have the time to get bored, of course. However, we're talking about boredom in your creative process. So how do we get over boredom doing the same things, trying to widen the creative net? That's what we're going to have a look at. Oh, nearly spilled it. All right. So, guys, I'll see you all tomorrow morning, 6:15, and looking forward to it. And I'll see you then. Thanks for tuning in. All right, then. Bye.